Thanks everyone for being here. Just to say a few words on what this event is meant to cover. So it's obviously part of the fractional consultant community. We've run loads of different events for fractionals and fireside chats and discussions with interesting people that we've come across to help fractionals try to figure out how to win work, how to scale what they're doing, and how to generally attract clients. I got chatting to Matt recently about a service that he was offering, which was contractor to consultant. Sorry, I've probably got that wrong, Matt, but a service where
that's cool. That's all good.
You'll introduce in a second, right? But a service in which he was working with individual contractors that could then scale their services up, potentially repackage and productize parts of what they were doing. It was a fascinating conversation. So I've invited him to a fireside chat. We ran that last month. So that recording is going to be available if you want to have a watch of that as well. But I think throughout the meeting, and especially after the meeting, I spoke to a few people that were struggling to see how you could put the theory onto what they do. And I think, as Matt said afterwards, a lot of people say, I can see how this might work for somebody else, but it might not work for me, or don't see how it would work for me. And so we thought we'd do a follow-up of that event in which we interviewed 3 specific fractionals and tried to see if Matt's theories and what Matt does could work in a very, very small time window. So this would usually be a much longer process, but this is kind of a window into how this service might fit for fractionals, and hopefully to give you a bit more idea of how it might work for you. So Matt, I'll hand over to you. Please build on the introduction as you see fit.
No worries. No, thank you. And yeah, I won't go over everything in the intro from last time, but yeah, I'm Matt. I run my own consulting company, Fluent Forward. Started off very much doing a lot of contracting, but wanted to scale my own services, and took a number of years, lots of areas to kind of figure out what worked and what didn't work, and over the course of that time got to work with a lot of other contractors, helping them do the same thing as well, which is what I spend a reasonable amount of time doing now, as well as the other types of consulting work that I do. Barry mentioned I do on a mastermind program that helps people go through this. My aim for the call is, everyone on this call has something to sell, right? But my aim on this call is not to sell anything to anyone. It is simply to give a bit of a window, as Barry said, into what that model could look like, might look like, just to get people thinking, really, because I talk to so many contractors that think it couldn't work for them when it can, like 99.9% of the time it will, and it can. So if I can help to kind of spread that message, really, then I'm achieving what I set out to do, which is why we're here today. And yeah, I think we have 2 or 3 people. I'll be kind of going through that, but as Barry said, if anyone's got any questions, just jump in the chat as well. So Ashoka, I believe you're first up.
Okay, thanks.
No worries. So yeah, we've got a limited amount of time. Like we said, there is a big kind of process I take people through. So it's not like we're going to leave the call in 20 minutes time and you're going to have launched a whole new business model, validated it, iterated on it, improved it, etc. But hopefully we'll give you some ideas that you might better start experimenting with. But yeah, very briefly, if you can, what's the background to your business, your skill set, and ultimately what are you trying to achieve?
Okay, so I was brought up as a IBM Sprague systems engineer in the 90s, and got exposure to large corporate global enterprises, architecting IT solutions. So this is the days where the network we just drew was a cloud, the fluffy cloud. Nobody understood what was going on in there, but it was good culture, good management, good backup, sales, marketing, the whole works. So I was very privileged, got wheeled into boardroom settings, IT departments, told everybody what to do, won the business, and I thought life was like that. Always. I didn't know any other. In early 2000, got poached by Dell EMC to set up professional services unit in there. but completely different culture, very cutthroat. If you didn't make your quarter numbers, if you were a salesman, you got cut.
Yeah.
You had to wear the white hat, and it was a white hat, black hat culture. 2005, I decided I'll go it alone, set up my own. At that time, it was a cloud computing company, managed online backup in the early days before cloud was a thing.
Yeah.
And basically, for 15 years, I struggled to try and market an enterprise solution to the SME world. Come COVID time, I thought stuff, and I got people. So this was one of the things, a cloud computer I kind of invented and trying to get this to market, but I couldn't do that. So the company is just on pause. So a couple of years ago, I decided to go back to what I do best, which is giving that kind of advice to senior leadership.
Okay.
And set up my own consulting practice, focusing on cybersecurity, governance, ESG, risk management, and getting senior leadership teams to understand that and build from that compliance programs, security programs, and hopefully get paid for it. Currently, I have joined a couple of fractional offices, and it was only kind of recently I became aware that, and I noticed somebody, I said, what fractional meant, but the customers, the clients aren't actually asking for fractionals. They don't see the value proposition of it. So that's the bit I struggle with, trying to get noticed, get people asking for me, that kind of thing. So that's kind of where I'm at.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And what's the objective of the business and you having a business?
Okay, I'd like to have, I'm not looking for expansion. I'm just looking for a nice, solid business I can add value, particularly to mission-driven companies, impact-driven companies. So I've got a fondness for sustainability, for security, online safety, and there's a lot of startups there that need help and support and getting funding and getting established. So I want to do that as an overall mission, but the most important thing is to get regular income, not get out of this trap of being stuck in just doing pro bono work and doing the work, but switching it. I want to, I'm finding it hard to get the paid contracts.
Yeah, doing the work can often be very different to running a business, even when you've got a contract. But yeah, there are lots of other things that go alongside a business, like ensuring you do have a steady stream of clients, no matter what source and type of source they're coming from. So it's good to hear that you're open to that, because surprisingly, I talked to a lot of contractors and fractionals that almost say what they think they're supposed to say, but when you really dig into it, they're not actually interested in acquiring customers. They want the results of having new customers, but they don't want to actually do the work to acquire them, which doesn't really make it a business by itself.
Yeah, that's right. Well, my wife is always telling me, "What, you haven't got a business if you're not making any money. You've got to get money to feed."
Expensive
because
hobby.
I've been a bit idealistic. I've got value and everything, and I work hard and I work through the night. And what's the point of doing that if it's you're just going to end up ill and tired and frustrated and not happy?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You've got to, work hard, grafting, hustling, all of that stuff is fine, but it's leverage is what matters most, right? It's what are the
Yes.
outputs that you get for those inputs, and that's the results. The results are not just the inputs that you put in their own right, and you can apply the same inputs to different situations and contexts and get very different results.
That's right. And the other thing that's affecting me, like you try and build content and post on LinkedIn and and you don't get any likes or whatever. And I know it's a psychological game. And then you see other people promoting silly things. I don't mean it in a derogatory way.
I know what you mean.
And they get thousands of likes, and you think, how do I connect to the right audience as well? You know?
That's it. It's about the right audience for you. It's about effective ways to get their attention, and then it's what's the right way to direct that attention into them becoming a client, and what's the right way to package up something to sell them, and what is the right thing to sell them, what's the right way to deliver for them that's not going to leave you burnt out or at capacity the moment you acquire one client, because if you do that, then by definition you can't do anything else until you haven't got a client again, and then it's like, oh no, what do I do now? I haven't got a steady stream of clients, because you haven't set yourself up to be able to even handle a steady stream of clients, which creates this kind of negative cycle, if you like, of never having time to get clients, because you're not working in the most leveraged way, really. So no, thank you for sharing that and a bit about your background. And I had a look at your LinkedIn profile, your website as well. And I think we haven't got time to do a kind of a website deep dive, but I think it's clear you've got the right intentions, but I think the website speaks to you as being the product rather than to a specific audience. I can't tell who the audience is from the website, and I can't tell how you could help that specific audience in a specific way. I can't tell the problems the specific problems you help them with, and therefore can't see the specific way in which you help them solve those problems. And I think many contractors used to selling themselves and their skill set, but in a more of a productized model, we want to swap that around, really, so that you're not selling you're actually selling a solution to a problem that a specific audience has. And that's what's going to make it easier to get attention of an audience. For a start, you'll know who that audience is, and you'll know their problems that audience experiences, therefore you'll be able to speak to them, therefore you'll get attention, and then you get the opportunity to present them with your version of a solution to those problems, which makes it easier to get a client and then deliver against those problems and solutions.
I can see that, Matthew. One of the things, because I think, my solutions are generic, I can apply this to anybody.
Exactly. That's the challenge.
And then you end up describing it for anybody, which is actually nobody.
Exactly right. It is. And people worry. So a lot of contractors, taking a step back, are specialists in a number of skills. Sometimes that can actually a bit broad, the skills they work with. But, compared to the general population, right, they have specialist skills that they try and deploy. Therefore, that's what they try and sell. But it's far better to specialize in the problems and the people you solve those problems for. And contractors worry that, well, but there's loads of other things I could help those same people with that you're not going to. Yeah, that's true. But there's all these other people that I could help with something different. Yeah, but that's true. But have you helped everybody in the country or even the planet that has the problem, the specific problem that we're talking about? Have you helped all of them, or anywhere approaching market capacity? And the answer is, of course, no. So therefore, before you worry about being too specialist, let's get you known for a specialism based around problem and audience you solve that problem for, because it's going to be far easier to get someone's attention if you're not saying, I could help you with X, I could help you with Y, I could help you with Z. How's anyone supposed to read that and think, yeah, you're the person I need because I have one of those 20 problems that you help? You're not going to trust that as much as someone like, I help this type of company with this specific problem and this is how I do it. And all the time you're talking about that kind of problem, the symptoms associated with it, the challenges, the
Yes.
frustrations, and the way that you can help. That's going to be far more engaging to the people that have that problem. So from your
Okay.
profile, from what you've described, you covered a number of different areas. You mentioned security, you mentioned risk management, you also mentioned compliance,
Yes.
you mentioned enterprises, you also mentioned startups and funding. So we've got quite a broad set of solution areas, and
Yes.
therefore quite a broad set of problem areas associated with them, and a broad set of audiences as well. Normally take people through a process to kind of work this out, but what's the kind of the gut feel kind of telling you, if you had to pick one audience and one type of problem that you could help them with, what would that look like?
I think in line with like what I've been hearing from you in terms of packaging and people, what they're asking for, I think for me, it's probably the easiest thing is to concentrate on the compliance, delivering like ISO 27001 implementation, Cyber Essentials Plus, and focusing it on small organizations, not for the big, as a fractional. I can focus on small organizations, providing that CxO role.
Let's
Just
forget
for
about the
very
role.
specific.
Let's forget about that, but purely in terms of problems. So there's a problem
Yeah.
around compliance and certification,
Yes.
or there is a need around that. But what's the real problem that company has? No one goes out and buys an ISO certificate because they think it looks pretty on the wall. What are they actually trying to achieve, and how does that certification help them?
Okay. On the security and the compliance, so it's about getting trust for suppliers that they want to do business with. So if they are certified, because the larger organizations need that compliance with their suppliers. So that's kind of a thing that they need. They need to be protected in cybersecurity nowadays as well.
Sure, I understand
So,
that's something that they should have. But if
yes.
you were to talk to their leadership, what are the burning problems that mean they absolutely, what makes it a must-have rather than a nice-to-have?
They'll get fined if they have a data breach, and they'll get ransomware attacks, and that could bring down the business in overnight. So it's about them protecting the business, and the reality is it could happen to them. It's not going to happen to big organizations. They might not be aware of it, so you make them aware of the threats, do the risk analysis, and all of that.
When we look at kind of different types of customers, we can look at customers that are problem unaware, so they don't know that they've got some problems, and therefore you have to do the education work, which is fine.
Yes.
There are ones that are problem aware, so they're aware of problems that they must have solved in their business, but they're not sure yet how to solve it. And then obviously moving down, you get people that are also solution aware, and they think they know how to solve it, whether that's hiring someone full-time or part-time. But I think if you're going in problem unaware, it's going to be more of an uphill battle. And we're trying to be more specific here. So we're trying to focus down on a niche. So if we disregard the ones that are unaware of problems, what do the people that are aware of problems but don't have a solution to it look like?
So the only thing I can think of is somebody who says they've got to get ISO 27001, an internationally recognized standard. We have corporate policy to do that, almost like they have to do it, and our suppliers are asking us to do it as well.
Okay, so I think
it's very specific project, and all you do is go in there with the standards.
So I'm just conscious we're kind of short on time, but I think for me, the guidance I can give you right now, and we can follow this up privately if you want to, to kind of expand further, but I would not focus on people at the problem unaware. So focus on people that are aware of a problem but don't have a solution, because that's going to be easy to address. So start thinking about and brainstorming ideas around type of company and audience, and what are the problems that they've got that they need to know how to get over, whether it's related to a specific supplier or whatever that may be. I don't think it's going to be just a trust thing, or wouldn't it be nice if, but yeah, start to think about ones that don't need educating about the problem, so that you can start talking to them about a problem they're already wondering how to solve, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes exact sense. Like sustainability development goals by 2030, it's a problem that everybody should be addressing, but there's a lot who aren't aware of it, but there are ones who do. So I can
yeah, but just remember to make it not like what should they be doing, but what actually are they already trying to do, what problems have they already got, not what ones can you make them aware of, because that's people that are probably unaware, which is going to be a lot harder to address. But
yeah,
I think we have to move on now. But like I say, if you've got any other questions or you want to follow up,
I would LinkedIn, like to, but thank you very much for that. That's given me a nice view and a nice approach, a focused approach. So that's great.
Good. Yeah, let me know how you get on.
Great, thank you.
No
Fantastic.
worries.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Ashoka, for sharing everything so openly there. And anyone else, feel free to add questions into the chat as well. We'll try and get to those by the end. But yeah, moving over now to Richard Leader. Matt, I'll hand over to you again to do all the interviews and stuff. But yeah, thanks for that. Round two.
Awesome. Hey, Richard.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you.
Good. So yeah, same question aside, I guess. Give me the brief background. What is it that you're up to? What is it that you do?
Yeah, so I'm excuse me, I'm a fractional CMO, so I'm kind of involved in marketing stuff. The background to that is kind of twofold. So on a very personal level, anyone who's in marketing will identify with this. I'm bored of getting fired every 2 years, which is kind of what happens to marketing directors and CMOs. I think life expectancy is 18 months. And actually, what I kind of do love being in a new business and love working in a small business and a startup scale up. Those are the sort of businesses which actually probably can't really afford my services full time anymore. Most of those businesses that I've grown up in have had portfolio finance directors, but not really on the marketing side of things. So what I'm trying to do is to bring that idea of the portfolio marketing director into those sort of startups and scale ups. And I've been doing it this time around since about April this year.
Okay. And so startups, scale ups, why that kind of portfolio option?
Because I like them. Because I kind of enjoy being in that environment, to be honest. It's not the startup environment is always very exciting. I mean, and I'm not talking really early stage startup, the sort of the pre-revenue startups. I'm talking about the ones that have been going for a little while and have got revenue and have got a sort of an idea of things like product market fit.
Yeah, good.
But you know, there's always a lot to do in those organizations. It's always fast moving, and people typically are quite receptive to change and to doing exciting things.
Yeah.
Scale ups often develop some pretty big problems in the structure of the business overall, but in marketing in particular, and it can be quite difficult to keep that marketing team on track. So that's something that I quite enjoy doing is giving those sort of young marketing teams the opportunity to develop into bigger, more functional, more exciting teams in the long term.
Interesting. And you know, I've had a look at your LinkedIn, I've had a look at your website. It's definitely selling you. It's very much buying me on a part-time basis because it's going to be cheaper than getting someone full-time. And you know, marketing on cheap can work, but it's not usually the most impactful way to market your products, your services. And from what you've said and what I know about startups and scale-ups, I think there's definitely a way we could package up and reframe what it is that you do and how you help people and serve people. You know, so you're talking startups, scale-ups, they've got traction, they've got product market fit, they've got the kind of embryo of a marketing team by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
So we know what that looks like. We can find those people, we can tell from the company structure what they look like. And what are the challenges that they've got at that point? Presumably they have a marketing channel that's working for them, that's enabled them to get traction, or is it just being kind of friends and family kind of traction? What does that look like?
No, typically they will have a marketing channel that is working, but it depends what that is, and a lot of in the particularly in the sort of the areas that I've been working in, predominantly in sort of fintech space.
Yeah.
A lot of those channels involve paid media, which is quite expensive. So, you know, Google ads and Facebook ads and that sort of stuff. And there is a desire for a lot of people to move away from that that sort of paid media side of things.
Yeah. So is that organic marketing then your specialty?
To be honest, the key area for me in a lot of cases is actually through partnerships. Trying to get the business to focus on a slightly different approach to the market. Who can you partner with who is able to where you can have a genuine partnership where everybody is benefiting, you, the partner, and the customer at the end of the day.
Nice. That makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I think there's definitely something in you. So if we talk about audience, problems, and kind of opportunity, I think obviously, I think audience, fintech, startups, bridging the gap to scale up.
Yep.
Is definitely the audience. They've got some traction, they've got some funding, they've got money to invest in getting to those scale kind of inflection points, and you can certainly talk to what those inflection points and what that journey looks like. I think in terms of problems, then the problem would be they have an over-reliance on paid media.
Yep.
It worked, it started to get them traction, but ultimately they've got an acquisition channel that is entirely owned and managed by a third party. What if the algorithm changes? What if the CPC, CPM rates increase? All of those things are outside of their control. What if they burn through their target audience? All of a sudden their ad costs go sky high, or the conversion rates drop right down. There's lots of problems you can really dig into about challenges of putting all your eggs into paid media, and especially, you know, a single paid media platform. And again, make it relevant, specific to fintechs, you know, really do speak directly to your audience. And I think then if we talk about, you know, the opportunity, the goal for them then is, you know, in many respects is the inverse of that, is having other scalable marketing channels. So you're de-risking your customer acquisition, you've got more levers that you can pull on, you can scale. So as you're getting more funding or more customers, etc., you can reinvest in multiple channels, which you're not going to burn through an audience. You're opening yourself up. What if you could leverage other people's audiences to grow into a scale up rather than your own, rather than, you know, paying for every single person that you want to look at your website? What if you could enable a partnership that enables you to go one to many? So I think, you know, you can argue that paid media is one to many, but if you're paying for every click, then you're very much paying for the specific eyeball. So what if there was a way to break that down, so one relationship could open up hundreds, thousands of potential customers? You know, there's definitely lots of opportunity you could talk to there and frame it against the limitations of that and risks and dangers of that paid media model, and very much position a type of solution against that as being very, very different to that, a lot more scalable, a lot more cost effective, etc. And then I think the thing that you sell is not you and your time in that instance. It is a process we haven't really got time to get into now, but it would be a process that would take them from understanding what's working with their paid media through to identifying and establishing these partnership opportunities. How does that sound?
Yeah, and it's one of the things I've been trying to get my head around for the last month or two, really, is what is the process I take in And there's a challenge in not wanting to go in with this kind of cookie cutter approach to something, or not appear to be going in with that cookie cutter approach, which I think is something people are potentially a little bit frightened of. But there is a what is your process? What are the things you can introduce to a customer in the early stages of negotiation or a call or whatever?
You absolutely need to have that process, because otherwise it is just selling your time, which is all in a abundant market is always going to come down to who's the cheapest if we think everybody looks about the same. But when it comes to selling a process, I think a lot of contractors, fractional, solo business owners struggle to differentiate between the things that they do and the tasks that they would have as a particular perspective of a process you go through, the low level mechanics and the details, versus a high level process that you present to a client that is more benefits driven. So within each of the client facing steps, you would have loads of stuff you do behind the scenes that the client doesn't need to know about, shouldn't need to know about in detail, because if you try and communicate that, you're just going to overwhelm and confuse them anyway. That's your specialty. That's how you do what you do and what makes you good at what you do. So what's that higher level perspective of a client process that is enough to convince them that you know what you're doing and you have authority, and you will lead them to their goal by like 3 to 5 very, very benefit driven steps in the process. So maybe it's like, well, first of all, we are going to, and I'm just making this up, it could be quite different, we're going to analyze the ads that are performing best on your paid media channels at the moment, so that benefits, so that we can understand the types of customers that are going to convert more readily, etc., etc. You make it, each of those milestones, those high level steps should be very, very benefit driven. So they should see the benefits as they work with you at each step in the process. And then, I don't know what your process is, whether it's, identifying potential partners, establishing outreach to those partners, whatever that looks like, you can create like 3 to 5 steps in total, where each one of those has a clear benefit to your customer that moves them closer to that goal of more scalable client acquisition. The key is to make them client facing and benefit driven, and you don't need to get established authority by confusing people with all of the detail that you do. And I'm not saying you would, but most people fall into that trap. I'm guilty of it sometimes as well, but you don't need to do that. You just need to, they need to understand that you understand their problems. You know what it's like for a fintech with an over-reliance on paid media, and this is why you have that process, and this is why that process will help them get their goal. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And interesting. I mean, Alan has asked a question in the chat about what's my experience in this space been since I started, and actually it's been very positive. I haven't made as much money as I made last year in full employment, but I've done all right, and for the first year of doing it, I'm kind of happy with that. But everything really that I've sold of any meaningful amount has been from my personal network. These have all been people that I have known in the past, that I've kind of worked with, and I've got things lined up for next year, which are again from that personal network. Which is in part why I've kind of reinforced that selling me piece, and not the process.
That makes sense, but I think, if you want a more stable, predictable income stream, opportunity to scale if you want to. You don't have to, but in order to have a stable business, you need to have the elements that are going to make it possible to scale, even if you choose not to. I think it's got to come down to solving some specific problems for a specific group of people in a specific way, and selling not you, but selling the goal that they're looking for ultimately, and selling the process as a mechanism to achieve it. How involved you are or aren't is really immaterial and irrelevant to them. If you can take them from where they are to where they want to go, within a specific context, then that's where the value is for them.
And I know this deep down, right? Because when I kind of moved from being a kind of sole trader to setting up a limited company, I used the name Fractional Leaders which is kind of obviously a bit of a play on my name, right? But there is kind of at the back of my, I don't necessarily want to set up an agency or anything, but there is at the back of my mind, there is the potential for this to be scalable beyond 5 days a week for me.
Absolutely. I think for me, agency models are one thing, and I've been in all sorts of masterminds and had different coaches and experts in that area, as well as different competing areas to help form my own direction, but also help me understand the direction I didn't want to take things. And I think for me and a lot of other people, agency typically is still time-based, but selling other people's time, with some kind of markup. And that's fine, it works. There's all sorts of metrics agencies have about revenue per employee, all this kind of things, and it's its own world and ways of working. But for me, ultimately, if we can step away from the time-based model to something more value-based, I think it's more honest. Like an agency, they earn more money if they take longer to do the work, and that's never really sat right for me. For me, it's like, if you optimize the way you work so you can get someone to the same outcome quicker, more efficiently, in a better way, you should both be rewarded for that, because you're doing something good. So it should take you less time, so therefore you can take on more clients, or you could do it quicker for clients, and therefore you get to charge a little bit more for it. But it's a more aligned business model, I think, which is why I personally shy away from more of what I would call an agency model.
Matt, can I chip in here just to get your thoughts on this? Like, I'm listening, I'm super interested in all this, and it all makes sense. But the process that you've got there, that you're talking about, that's the mechanism to achieve a goal, I think you said. How upfront with you is this something that's on your website? Is this something that's on your pitch deck? Is this something that you use in conversations but hold back? Like, how do you, once you've got that process, how much do you market it?
So I wouldn't market the process most of the time. I'd market around the problems and the people you help solve it. Most people talk about themselves too much when they try and market, and they think marketing is making people aware of me. I mean, that's true to an extent. I think it's actually better just to communicate to and about your audience the problems they've got and the challenges, and put up case studies and things about how you help people just like the people that you want to help. And you can talk about the process a little bit there in terms of the steps that you took them through and what the results were. But I think you're never going to be able to stick up a web page that explains the process. Someone reads it through, think, oh yeah, I get that, you're the right person to help me, I'm going to buy that. It's not a commodity off the shelf. I think what you want to do is demonstrate that you understand them, you understand their type of business, their problems, their challenges in a detailed way, and get their attention that way. And then try and turn that attention into a conversation. And it's in that conversation, which is more consultative and diagnostic in nature, you get to kind of dig a lot deeper into those problems. And then you're positioning the process against the specifics that have come up in that conversation, which you can't do until you're actually in that conversation to start with. And I think the danger with almost trying to put too much out there can be, people read that, they'll think they understand what you do and how you help people. So they'll kind of feel satiated. They feel that they've got what they came for because they know these things. They know about a process. Oh, yeah, I get that. Maybe that's what we need to do then. And then they'll go away feeling like they've now got what they came for, but they haven't. Nothing's actually changed in their business. But if you can get that attention, turn it into a conversation, then you can understand at a deeper level, and they can understand at a deeper level exactly what, if you can help them to start with, because you might not be able to, and then exactly how you can help them in a more specific way.
Amazing. Makes a lot of sense. Richard, did you have any other questions at all?
No, that's cool. That's really helpful. I think I've got a lot of work to do.
Cool. Have a think. Yeah, let me know again how you got on. Feel free to drop me a message, email, or whatever. Let me know, what you're thinking about in terms of audience problems and process.
And I must just make the point here again. I know Matt made the point at the beginning about this. It's not a pitch. Matt's not here to pitch.
No.
He's not here to try and sell. Obviously, he does charge for services in this space. So if it progresses to that, that's an organic thing. Then that's awesome. But Matt's spoken at various different events for us, various different communities, great friend of the communities, and always happy to just genuinely help. So yeah, just to kind of, again, make that clear. But I think we had a few others, Matt, that have said that they are potentially interested in going through the same process you've just taken Shoka and Richard through.
Okay.
Alan, was it Alan Alexander, I think? Chelsea said, yeah. Alan, did you want to, are you happy to go through a few questions?
Sure. Yeah, I'm here just to learn about this space, really. So I've not started on the journey like some of the others have. I'm program director. So for the last few years, I've been on gigs that last 12 to 24 months or longer. And so in that kind of role, I've got lots of skills in kind of business change management, vendor management, lots of good stuff. But like the others, not what I'm struggling with, but what I really need to figure out is actually how do I make that specific to a problem that people have, so that it's sellable. So yeah, that's what I'm planning to spend some time post-Christmas thinking about how do I make that specific, rather than just say, hey, this is me, I've got all this great experience, but yeah, make it more specific so that you can say to people, this is what I offer. And I think, Ashoka, to your point, so that you can get on the back of problems that people are having on LinkedIn and be specific around, hey, I can help you with that. Look, this thing's gone, these guys have been reached again. I can help you prevent that kind of thing happening to your business in your case, or that kind of thing. So it's just really just thinking about my broad skill set and what I do more specifically that I can turn into that problem solution.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think with people, I find in that kind of program management type of role, I think you got two options really, one of which is more of a kind of coaching, mentoring, training type of thing, where you teach organizations how to effectively manage those programs. Or I think the other option is to drill down deeper into something a lot more specific and not a more specific type of program to be managed, and that's what you're selling. But I think, well, what were some of the things that you did as part of managing those programs, and are there some of those like smaller problems that could be pulled out into more of a productized service, whether it's, I don't know, like vendor management and negotiating cost savings on IT spends over X amount, whatever that is, right? If there's a specific thing like that you could pull out, that could be something to experiment with and see if that resonates.
Yeah, so I was thinking about troubleshooting. Lots of programs and projects get into trouble, right? And we've all been there. We've seen CIOs scratching their heads, going, "How are we going to fix this?" And they don't necessarily have the expertise in house to come and solve a complicated problem like that. So, I'm thinking about that kind of thing. I'm thinking about
still quite generic. I think I would go more specific rather than just you've got a problem you don't know how to solve. That by definition is just open-ended rather than specific.
Fair.
But yeah, along the right lines. I think try and find something more specific.
Yeah, about program startups. So if you got something complicated, typically people would go and let's get Accenture in and spend £50,000 in 2 weeks and have a slide deck at the end of it.
Yeah.
But actually, is there a better value way to do that? I think that's definitely an option, and that's one that has quite a broad appeal. So lots of companies go through that phase, and so if you can provide or demonstrate some credibility and provide a better value solution than 12
I think that
Accenture, then that's
a bit of a cost saving kind of offer. And I think you're going to be competing against their brand and their trust, and you'll be talking to people that are already solution aware and therefore in that cost comparison mode. I'd still encourage you to think about a step before that, and actually what are some more specific problems that you could help solve for companies, rather than, okay, we know the problems, they've already just shopping around for solutions, I want them to pick me rather than Accenture. Because you say then if they're doing that, the only thing levers you've got are kind of trust and price. And if they're willing to give up some of that trust, then it becomes a race to the bottom in terms of pricing, and it can be harder to kind of work in that type of market. So I'd say, well, again, what are some elements of the things you've done as part of managing these programs? Are there some problems there that you can anchor your offer on?
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, thanks. Good feedback. Thank you.
Cool. No worries. So let me know if you want to bounce any ideas around, or any feedback.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Alan. David Rushton, is David there? Yeah.
Yes, I'm here, guys. Yeah, so I mean, my kind of journey in a nutshell, I would imagine this kind of resonates with quite a few people on this call, really, is that I started out pretty much as a contractor, really, where I get paid to come in for 1 or 2 days a week, and people would just like launch things at me, really, technical stuff. You've been a kind of head of tech, you've been a CTO, you've been a technical advisor. Here's some stuff. Can you just kind of do stuff kind of with it, really? And don't get me wrong, it kind of paid the mortgage, it paid the bills. I made some good kind of contacts, but I kind of always felt like I was actually kind of trying to walk up a hill whilst kind of walking through the treacle, really, because every problem that I got was very kind of unique. It was actually different. It required kind of me going away and actually learning things, some new skills, some new solutions. And I kind of got to the point, and I was a bit like, I'm not actually kind of producing any value of my own that I can actually retell to other clients, because everything that I'm doing is different. So like kind of every path is a start at 0, rather than starting at like 1 or 2 or 3.
Absolutely.
So over the course of this year, really, particularly over the last few months, I've been kind of packaging my offerings together, if you like, into kind of 3 or 4, which are based around specific strategies. So, for example, a data strategy, an integration strategy, an overall kind of digital strategy for companies as well. Where I'm actually focusing on the value. These are the kind of processes that I will actually go through. I'm not actually charging you on an hourly rate, because if I go kind of steam ahead and I get everything done in kind of half the time, well, the only person that kind of loses it in that is me, really. Kind of not you. So I think my kind of challenge really is kind of messaging, because I know that on this call we've talked about identifying a problem first and then actually marketing around that. But a lot of my clients don't actually realize that they have a problem until we start speaking, or it's nothing like the problem that they thought that they had. So for me to kind of go out and actually say, you need a better kind of digital, more aligned strategy that can help you actually scale your company and increase revenue, etc. Feels like a little bit like trying to hit a kind of dartboard in the dark, really. There's not a specific problem that I can latch onto, which is my biggest challenge.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And yeah, you're so right about being inversely rewarded for getting better at what you do. Yeah, I think for me, then that's very much marketing against, to problem unaware people and trying to educate them about those problems. And you can do that. There's, you have to do a lot of work to educate people about those problems, and you want free communities where you bring people in and start to talk about them. It can work. Requires a lot of patience, a lot of time, and it will take a long time before you start to see that community slowly building and growing. I think I would be tempted to see if there are, in your experience, not some problems you could extract that are more tangible, that companies are experiencing, that they are more aware of, to be honest, and more evident and more obvious. And that's not to say you change what you do under the hood behind the scenes. You're still leveraging the same skills, but I think very much from a messaging perspective, you want to be messaging against problems, frustration, challenges that they've got. It doesn't have to be to the C-suite. It could be to tech leadership, but it doesn't matter what level that's at. But I think definitely try and pull that back from problem unaware to problem aware. There must be some types of companies you work with where actually they are aware of problems in that area, and it's hard to say without kind of diving into the specifics, but I think there must be some companies like if you think about all the types of companies, like big and small, like for the problems that are solved by that, like data strategy, for instance, there must be some people where that's a real headache for them right now. And what are some of the symptoms of, already kind of reaching breaking point? Because then they're going to be so much more motivated, so much easier to engage with if you can get their attention. And the value, the perceived value of your service will be so much greater. Because if you've got to teach someone about a problem, oh yeah, I didn't know I had that problem. How much am I going to value and pay for a solution for a problem I didn't actually know I had? It wasn't bothering me like 10 minutes ago. Probably not very much. But if like you've been struggling with this problem for days, weeks, months, you've tried all these different solutions, they're just getting nowhere, like everything's getting worse, they can't scale the business or whatever it may be, then that perceived value is going to be so much more higher. There's going to be a lot more urgency around it. It's going to work a lot better for you, I think.
Yeah, cool.
That help, David? Any follow-up questions on that, or that's
no, that's kind of that's it's, you kind of like confirm my kind of suspicions, really, that it's almost like my kind of, when we talk about strategy, it's kind of naturally goes quite abstract and quite kind of zoomed out, and it's almost kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're actually saying here is actually almost kind of niche in a bit, and kind of hook on to, maybe, let's not talk about kind of technical strategy as like a big whole cake, but if you zoomed into one specific part of it, like the actual data strategy, well, that's probably like easier to actually market to, because the biggest problem that they tend to have, my clients, is just complete kind of inertia. They've been trying for months to actually get some kind of coherent data stuff off the ground, and it's just not happened because they're not looking in the right places.
Yeah, and what are the symptoms of those that you can talk to? Is it they can't onboard new customers as fast as they want because of X, Y, and Z? Is it that marketing have got no idea what sales are doing, and vice versa? What are the symptoms and how are those problems manifesting themselves? And that's what you can market against.
Excellent stuff.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Matt. Right, 5 minutes to go. I think we've got time for one more. Martin, are you happy to come on and have a chat? I think you had something there. I think you're just on mute there.
You're on mute as the expression in 2023. So what am I? I'm a fractional chief product officer, specializing in SaaS companies. I'm looking for clients that are typically have between 20 and 200 employees, although I have worked for organizations of 1,500 or so. And they are in the middle of, or considering, a transition to actually having structured professional product marketing. What comes into that immediately is product management is a multifaceted thing. Not having it can show up as poor messaging in the marketplace. So you have ineffective sales. It could be that customer promises are not being met because there isn't a cadence of a drumbeat of releases every 3 months, or there's confusion about what a release is. The technologists say, well, we can release 5 times a day if you want. And marketing guys are saying, well, yeah, but we can't make a song and dance with
no, you can't add value that way. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. So there's some confusion about what product management actually is, especially in SaaS, where it's very important.
Yeah.
It manifests itself in very different ways up and down the chain within an organization. And the thing that I struggle with is positioning it against that, is identifying a problem or a small list of problems that product management actually solves. The other thing you can point out, though, is that if you want to be a Salesforce, for example, product management is one of their absolutely core skills. There's some architectural things, multi-tenant SaaS, all of that in the cloud, and so on, that people understand. But what they don't understand quite so well is that one of the reasons they're so successful is that they're absolutely shit hot at product management.
Yeah, I think the product marketing, was very disruptive. And I think if you're familiar with category design at all, I think they very effectively executed that early on. You know, they were able to carve out and define the category of, you know, cloud-based computing, to be honest with you, and SaaS, and, you know, a cloud-based you know, sales management platform that is Salesforce. So I think, yeah, they were definitely very, very effective at being able to do that, and that's why they were able to get the traction and results. I think for your type of clients, if you want to carve out some kind of niche and messaging, think about what they have and haven't got. You know, do they have a strong product function but just lacking the product marketing elements of it, or is that true enough for a subset of them that, you know, that could be a niche to focus on?
Right. It could be that they have tried to implement product management, but it just hasn't quite worked for them. They're struggling with it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, do they have good user-centric product management and technical product management, but lacking the product marketing management? I think there could be something there where you could kind of define the subsets of product management. There's technical product management, there is user-centric product management. What about the, you know, PMM side of things? You know, is this missing in your organization? Are you experiencing X, Y, and Z? You know, do you know, you could tie it to churn or something like that. You know, do you have a good sales team able to convert someone only to find they churn 3 months later because their expectations weren't met? If your LTV is here but should be there, it could be a sign that you're missing the product marketing function in your business. You know, something like that might be worth thinking about.
Could be. Okay, I think that's still food for thought. Thanks for your
no worries
feedback. I know we're getting very short of time, but it's I guess I'm just illustrating that the idea of zeroing in on a problem and a group that might have that problem is sometimes it's really easy. I suspect it's easier in cybersecurity than it is in software.
I don't think so. I think when I talk to lots of contractors, different domains and skill sets, so the grass is greener on the other side. It's always easier from someone with a different skill set, and you feel that because you've got a different perspective on what they do. Because you're not in that world and do that work, you're seeing things at a higher level. Whereas what we need you to do is start seeing your own skill set and clients at a higher level than you typically do on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, it's a question of kind of zooming out a bit to see the high-level problems and challenges. And you're right, there could be kind of 100 different permutations of that, but then pick a subset to narrow in on and then see if you can actually, you know, find a niche that looks appealing and then start to expand only within that niche, but expand the problems and the symptoms of those problems within that niche. And I think you would get to a good definition of an audience and a set of their problems and challenges. Yes, there will be others you could help that don't match that, but that's kind of the point, is that you're then able to attract more people because you're being more specific.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Matt. Right, I'll draw that to a close there then. Massive thank you, Matt, for being here. Can I just ask a huge favor? If anyone's enjoyed this and got something out of it, please pop something on social media or something like that. If you're happy, if you do use LinkedIn, that kind of thing, and just give a shout out to Matt, because whilst you might not be currently looking to engage or anything, there might be people in your network that might, and it just helps kind of, put it this way, if Matt gets a bunch of clients off the back of this, then we're going to get him back and he'll be constantly doing more of these and helping more and more people. But obviously, as I say, he's not looking to charge anyone particularly, but yeah, if that happens, then obviously it helps. Likewise, if anyone's working with any scaling teams, for those of you that don't know, we run RecWorks, which is a tech recruitment company. So I'd love to hear from anyone. We've got some resource to help out new people, whether it's this year or in the new year. Please just keep us on the radar. Other than that, thank you everyone for taking the time and sticking around. And yeah, any feedback, we'd love to hear it. Other than that, we'll catch you at the next one. Thanks all.
Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Matthew. Very useful. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Thanks, Barry. Cheers, Matt.